for someone who might not necessarily be in the best state, how can they go about putting the building blocks in place to make that sort of foundation fundamental to what they're doing in their lives as well?
So it's a tough one because I don't think by nature I'm necessarily like an incredibly disciplined person. I always tease that I'm actually quite lazy. I just make things very like efficient for me, and I think like it's oftentimes like the achievement of whatever it is that kind of, I guess, inspires and motivates me, or pushes me. The inspiration, motivation are fleeting things, I feel, but the kind of driving force behind anything that I've ever done in my life is oftentimes like it's the idea of achievement at the end of it. And I don't know if it's a deep hatred for myself. I don't know what it comes from, but yeah, I would say like that has often been like the biggest driver in terms of getting, is just knowing that I want to try and achieve it and then getting to it. Because I'm also the complete opposite, in the sense of sometimes if, you know, if I don't really want to do something, I won't do it at all. Like I'll just, you know, like I'm very much like a 0 to 100 type person. But I would say like the discipline aspect comes from just kind of like having a strong sense of why, like knowing, you know, okay, cool, like why am I actually doing this? Like, am I trying to prove something to myself? Am I trying to prove something to someone else? Like, and I mean, like either sense, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong, but I think when you do have a clear sense of why you want to do something, or there's like just a desire for you to want to do it, that's always been like enough for me to kind of just stay disciplined. I also find like just being disciplined with things, it brings a lot more clarity and peace to your life. Like when you aren't disciplined with things, like I mean, as I've mentioned in like just even going through the process of kind of that whole like COVID and doing something as crazy as the Goggins to reinstill it in myself. But like when you say you're going to do something, is like acting on your word. And I think like it's almost like an integrity with self. Is like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. And it's not a sense of like, and that's where the discipline comes in. It's like, in order for me to maintain my identity and to keep being the person that I am, I have to be then acting in accordance with that. So if I want to be like like intense fitness guy that like is also an amazing partner to my girlfriend, who's also a strong business leader, who's also a good friend to others, a lot of that also comes down to like, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I'm a man of my word. And in order to do that, I have to have integrity with myself, to have integrity with others. And I think that's, for me, like personally, has been the biggest driver. And I think like putting accountability on yourself to also be there for others in that sense, when you start to look at your life as a whole, you know, it's like the same reason that, I mean, I've actually recently had a ex-colleague who worked with me, and he recently had a kid. And I saw him and I was like, dude, you've lost so much weight. Like, what happened? And he's like, it was the weirdest thing, because like his whole life, he's literally been the kind of guy that just orders like takeaway pizza, like does like a bunch of like just junk food, drinks like 5 Monsters a day, like just crazy, like never goes to gym, whatever. And he said like when he had his kid, he just had this like crazy sense of responsibility.
So he found his why.
Basically found his why. His why was given to him. It was kind of like without thinking about it. It was just, as he got his kid, he was like, you know what? I should probably start eating healthy. I should probably start being a good role model. And like immediately that responsibility in order to be there for others and show up for others, it just changed his life. And like now he's in incredible shape compared to where he was. He's exercising regularly. You know, he's showing up more. He's more energetic, and it's crazy to see that change. So I would say for a lot of people, it comes down to just like, you know, figuring out like who can you also take responsibility for, like, you know, do you need to provide for your family? Do you need to step up for them? Are you trying to be like an amazing role model for your kids one day? Are you trying to be an amazing partner? Are you trying to be an amazing friend? Are you trying to just show up for yourself? You know, I think for a lot of people, like we've all been through stuff in our life where maybe we haven't felt like we're living up to our potential, or maybe we feel like we could be better, or even in the sense of like you feel like you're destined for more. I think a lot of people are like that. Like you start to realize like we've all had dreams. I mean, as kids, you ask any kid, what do you want to be? And it's like, I want to be an astronaut or a fireman or whatever. And it's like, we as humans have a natural, I guess, desire to want to be more than what we are right now. It's the same reason we buy more things. It's like, and it's coming back to the whole kind of like e-commerce side of things, but the reason that we always want more in life is to progress, and advertising has become a cornerstone of that. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You want to progress as a person. This is an enabler to live that lifestyle, to be that kind of person. And so yeah, I think if you can really sit with yourself and figure out like, you know, like why do I want to change, and what's the kind of person that I want to be, and through that process you think, okay, cool, but if I want to be that kind of person, like actions are always going to speak louder than words. How can I start becoming that person? And for example, if you want to be like if you want to be a kind of hardcore guy, you want to be like a leader, you want to be showing up for people. It's like, what can you do? It's like, okay, cool, wake up early, be neat, dress well, like make your bed, like all the cliche things that people recommend. And not to say that those are all necessary to be that kind of person, but I think just deciding the kind of person you want to be and then acting in accordance with that is a huge game changer in terms of shifting discipline from being more like I have to do it, it's now like a chore, as opposed to being like, okay, this is actually benefiting me in the long run. I realize that if I'm if I'm consistent is probably the better word. If I'm consistent enough with this, I know for a fact like I will achieve said outcome.
Amazing. And say I'm trying to now go through this journey myself, and I've now highlighted a why for me, and now where from there? Like then I've got to slowly now start putting building blocks in place to live out this why.
For sure.
If, in your opinion, if you had to start kind of from ground zero with every single bad habit in the book, what would be sort of the step one? What's the first thing that you do to start getting the ball rolling?
For sure. I actually got this from a book that I read by Jordan Peterson, and it's basically setting the bar so low that you know for a fact that you can achieve that for, let's say, a week. So like, for example, let's say you're someone that like you wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Not to say 9 o'clock's a bad time. It's all relative and it's all subjective to the kind of person you want to be. But let's say, for example, you always wake up at 9 and you go, okay, cool. I want to be someone who wakes up at 5 and I want to be someone who goes to the gym and I want to run or whatever. You now say to yourself, okay, cool. I wake up at 9 the whole time. Like, do I think that for a week I could challenge myself to wake up at 9:15? And then you set your alarm every day for 9:15. You get out of bed and you go, okay, cool. You know what? That week I woke up 15 minutes earlier. Do you think I can wake up at 8:30 now? And you slowly start to kind of shift that back. And through that process, I mean, it's also, there's a book called Atomic Habits, which is like one of the most kind of famous books by James Clear, is understanding that you can then start to habit stack those things. So like, for example, if now suddenly you've gotten to the point where you're waking up an hour earlier, is maybe for that, like let's say you started at 9, you've now bought yourself an hour in the day. Do you think it would be reasonable to maybe go for a 30-minute walk in that hour time? And then starting to realize how can you start to include more things? So like by buying back the time, now you've got more, you can do more with your day. So how can I now get to the gym? How can I now, maybe if you're wanting to learn a skill or start a business, now you've also, like, if you can continue to shift that time back, you now have an extra hour to start working on, learning a skill or watching YouTube videos, whatever it is. I think as soon as you start to make a definite decision as to what that life is that you want to do and what that kind of person is and where you are right now, it's almost like how can you reverse engineer and then start to create like a step-by-step process, like incrementally, so that it's not just like, suddenly I'm someone who eats junk food. I wake up at 10 a.m. every single morning.
Yeah, and you go cold turkey. I'm going to be,
exactly. Throw away everything. I'm eating just like, I'm just eating veggies, meat, whatever. Like I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. Like, yes, you could probably, like there are some people who do that, like they have a slight like sudden shift.
Cold turkey plunge.
They literally realize like, I like hate the person that I am. And therefore, like, I'm going to do everything I can to change that. And you can do that for sure. But I think for most people, it's like understanding, okay, cool, how can I make this something sustainable? Because the worst thing you want to do is suddenly, you do all of those things. You get into a kick where, let's say you go cold turkey and you like you becoming the person you want to be. But for whatever reason, you don't have the patience, or, something comes up, or you maybe like, let's say you hit snooze and you wake, you sleep in, whatever, or, you don't go to the gym that day you're supposed to, is if you let that become like a negative cycle in your life, you then go back to step one again. So, yeah, I would say like setting the bar low. And again, it comes back to that idea of creating small wins for yourself and stacking those. So you have that evidence, like rather than waking every morning and saying, I'm someone that wakes up early, I'm someone that goes to the gym, I'm someone that does this, and you give all these affirmations, but you don't actually act on any of those things. Like you're just becoming delusional, lying to yourself. And some people are able to trick themselves into delusion, which then turns into action. But I think for most people, it's like, how can you stack up small wins and like almost like habits against yourself to then become the person that you want to be?